Hello, and thank you for watching Tomorrow's America. My name is William Donahue. For today's show, I want to talk about the reason that people tune into shows like this. And the reason that you would look into news or politics or anything for that matter is to find out what's going on. And that's the big question. What's going on? So you go to one source, you find out what they say is going on. You go to a different source, they say something different is going on. And the whole purpose that I do this show is to find out what's going on and try and convey that message to people. Um, what's going on in a general sense, I can tell you. But before I get into all that, please like and share this video. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Me and Rich are trying to build up our viewers. So if you subscribe, that helps us out. And share this video with, like-minded friends or anyone you think needs to hear this information. So, what's going on? In my worldview, what's going on is depopulation, massive wars, all these social policies seem to be progressive. They seem to be progressing along at the same pace, at the same time in all the different countries and cultures around the world. Um, there's financial chaos everywhere. Not one country isn't in debt, as far as I know. I know China's in debt. America's in debt. Not one country is not in debt, but they all, who owes who what. And obviously, the answer to that is there's central bankers that plan how the world's going to go. Obviously, if you own all the pieces on the Monopoly board, you could put hotels on whichever ones you want or move pieces around however you want. Basically, my point is that there's depopulation in the form of, abortions, medications that don't work, poisons in the food and water, like heavy metals, harmful toxins in the food and water, and just general things like that for depopulation. And then also, the push towards the LGBTQ agenda is not a depopulation effort, as it stands for like the average grassroots person. But you think about it, and the more people that don't reproduce with the opposite sex is the more people that don't have children and stop their bloodline right there. They cut it off and it ends. So, in a way, that would depopulate the world. And basically, that's depopulation. We got economic strife everywhere with especially this war and the Strait of Hormuz being closed, the oil shortages. Then we're going to have food shortages, which will lead to both of the other things, economic chaos and depopulation, maybe a large scale global famine, in the near future. All these things. So to sum it up, why is it that we can't make things better? If you buy a new truck and you got extra money laying around, and you could buy a toy and then build it, and you're financially able to do that. So you buy the truck and then you look at it and you say, okay, I want Edelbrock, whatever, I don't know the brands, but basically you start adding new parts that are not stock parts, and you make the truck better. That is looking at something, making a decision, and improving the situation. What we tend to do as a society, and it's not a right or a left issue, it's both sides. What we tend to do as a society is we look at something, make a horrible decision, decrease the goodness, I guess, for we decrease the value of the situation instead of adding brand new turbos and brand new exhaust and whatever to the engine to make it run better. You're like, I'm gonna take this stock brand new truck and I'm gonna go down to the junkyard, pull out an old turbo, and replace the stock one with a stock one that's been used. You know what I mean? Just replace it with a terrible part. As a society, the simple things, the moral things, like, for example, abortion, okay? For medical reasons, for necessity, for certain things, I could see the value in it. If you have a job and you know what I mean, I don't want to set a low bar by saying you have to have a job or whatever, because that is a low bar. If you are participating in something that could result in a human life being born, and then once the consequences of your actions start to transpire, you want to kill a human being to stop the eventuality of having a child, then that's morally wrong. Getting back to the basics of moral things, of goodness, and that comes from us as a country healing the citizens. It starts with you. It starts with me. It starts with everybody. So if everybody does their part to be a better person, someone needs help moving, you say, all right, I'll be there. Someone needs money, all right, I'll give it to you. You know what I mean? And for good reasons, for good charitable causes, but it starts by one, turning from evil, two, doing good things, showing love to your neighbors worldwide. Everybody does those two things. Turn away from sin, uh, repent for your sins, and then be a better person. Be a contributing member of society. Be happy at work. Help people out. Do those few things. Then we boost the morale of the country. And when we boost the morale of the country, and at the same time we add morality, now you have good, upstanding people. And the third aspect of that would be to have a knowledgeable, intelligent society. So those are like our three root problems. And how do those things, once we improve them, how do they benefit us? Well, we start going back to normal. Then the government can forget about social issues. The government has no role to play in social issues. Their job is to run a military, enforce the borders, make sure there's not potholes in the road, and balance our budget. They're not supposed to utilize their position to play the stock market or something like that. So, um, essentially, what's going on? You can't look at one story at a time. You have to look at the bigger picture, and you have to look at each individual piece and how it fits into the bigger puzzle, because this is important. A lot of people don't understand this. You tell them, okay, Agenda 2030. It's a UN plan, which is the United Nations. And how are the United Nations united? By treaties and agreements that they've signed. So they all signed on to be part of the United Nations. And when they hand down a policy such as Agenda 2030, the 17 sustainability goals, an agenda set to take place in 2030, then all the member countries have to then follow that policy. It becomes their policy. So that's why you see, like I said earlier, a shift in social policy and a shift in new movements towards progressive things. You see this shift, and it's happening in France, in Spain, in the United States, in Canada, in Australia. It's happening in all these countries at the same time, all on schedule, as if they all boop, 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 whatever got a text message, said, "All right, hey, this is going on now. We're on to the anti-Semitism bills. The last attempt at free speech didn't work. Must be time for Plan B." And then they implement, a social policy, but it's all designed to fit into Agenda 2030, and it's all like, the thing about it is that you're never going to find a piece of paper from the head of the UN signed saying, "Okay, United States, do this," and they give it to them and hand it down. It just, you have to read Agenda 2030, understand that we're a member country of the UN, see the social changes and the change in the wind, because obviously, for anyone who lived 10 years ago and was old enough to remember things, times were a lot different 10 years ago. You had more normal interactions with people. Everyone's stuck in their phone nowadays. A lot of things have changed, and it's because we're heading into this next phase of the world. They want to change the currency, make it digital, because all the economies are collapsing. So they're purposely collapsing the economies to implement a digital currency. And once you realize that things don't just happen and now we have to react to it, but that problems are created, then there's a reaction, then there's a solution, and then that solution plays right into the narrative where the next problem is already set up, and then there's a reaction that's not generic, or not organically comes into fruition, but a reaction that is staged and implemented, and it runs with the script, and then there's a reaction, and it's a cycle. I think they call that the Hegelian dialectic. So I'm going to get into some articles now, because we've established what's going on, the whole thing that I just said. And what I did was I just looked up articles, and they're all in somewhat a random order. And I just want to show you what I'm talking about in real time with the random articles that I found. So, first one here. I gotta put it up on the screen for you guys, but the first article here is talking about the attempted assassination of Donald Trump. So apparently the shooter, or the suspected would-be assassin, was in a DC jail, and now they're saying that he's being mistreated. And I supported Trump. I am a Republican. I think that political violence is wrong, but this guy's not convicted yet. So if he's in a DC jail, and what the complaint is that he's in the jail and he's being kept to a cell by himself, which I guess would be solitary confinement. They didn't specify the size of the cell or things like that, but essentially solitary confinement, and then he wasn't given access to a Bible. So, how much of that is him trying to cry, miss justice so that he could get away with the crime that he committed or that he allegedly committed? I don't know. But he is innocent until proven guilty. Therefore, you as a police officer, if some guy's mouthing off to you and he just robbed a store and you just crack him a punch in the face and you're like, that's for messing with my community. You don't distribute punishments. Your job is to catch criminals and obtain intelligence or information, evidence against them to build a charge. And the judge gets to hand down the punishment, which is then administered by the correctional industry. So that's how our system works. And if people don't like it, then you can vote and create a new system somehow. You know what I mean? Get a big movement going. Do whatever. Make yourself happy and do whatever you want. If you want to have a society that punishes people who aren't proven guilty, then you go ahead and do that, and we'll fight you, and we'll have another American Revolution. But until that happens, people have to follow the system. Whether you love Trump and you think this guy did it or not, he's innocent until proven guilty. And even if it goes against you and your political leanings, you have to wonder what happens when the roles are reversed and I'm getting punished for something and they treat me like I said was okay for them to treat this guy, Cole Thomas Allen. So that's where I stand on that. And like I said, I'm not sure exactly the details of it and how legitimate the complaint is, but still something to think about. And it helps you to stay fair and balanced when you put things into that kind of light. So I'm going to read you two different headlines. And like I said earlier, you go to one source and they say, oh, this is what's going on. Then you go to a different source with a different spin on the story, and you get a whole different story. So, like I said, the theme of the show is what's going on. That's why people tune into news and things like that, is to find out what's going on. So let's read these two articles back to back, and then I'll give my comparison, but you can think critically and come to your own conclusion. Iran fires on U.S. ships in Strait of Hormuz in threat to ceasefire. So initially off the headline, Iran fires on U.S. ships. They're saying that Iran did it. Now the ceasefire is threatened. The attack followed the passage of U.S. warships and merchant vessels through the waterway despite Iran's threats against attempts to interfere in the strait. So we're at a ceasefire. Iran launched missile drone attacks on U.S. forces and merchant vessels in the Strait of Hormuz on Monday and did not lay any hits, according to U.S. Central Command. The attack, the most significant threat to date to the shaky ceasefire that the U.S. and Iran reached last month, comes amid expanded U.S. operations to reopen the waterway to maritime traffic. So I'll stop there. we read the first paragraph of that one, and I'll be fair and read, the first paragraph or two of the other one, and then um, I'm gonna make a judgment here because sounds like, according to that article, the U.S. was making some type of maneuver, and Iran had threatened that they would react the way they did, and the U.S. did it anyway. But it's all hidden in layers. The U.S.'s attempt to basically what they're claiming is that this is a humanitarian effort to help get the ships out of the Strait of Hormuz because, during the ceasefire, we got to get these ships out of there. If the U.S. Navy would just leave Iran and go home, those ships could sail out of there. The only reason Iran is blockading the strait is because you have to think about the terrain. It's a waterway that is a dead end. It's a little channel up on the west coast of Iran, and it's where they ship their oil out of. It's a main trading. I guess essentially it's acts as a harbor, but they call it a strait. I don't know what the difference is, but same concept. So the Strait of Hormuz is this skinny waterway that would lead you deep into Iran, or more north into Iran than you could access, obviously, if you never entered the strait. So for the U.S. to take advantage of the ceasefire and say, okay, we got to do this humanitarian mission and sail our warships up into the Strait of Hormuz to go recover the oil tankers that are stuck there. Well, what if that's a bluff? What is Iran supposed to do if that's a bluff? What if the U.S. wants to position naval vessels in the Strait of Hormuz in advance of a ground invasion, and then they'd have their aircraft carriers, they'd have their ships that they could launch missiles from into mainland Iran? So why would Iran let them do this? First off, I mean, you're about to get in a bar fight and you turn your back on the guy. You know what I mean? Why would you give someone a clear strategic advantage for no reason? And that doesn't make much sense to me. So I'm going to go back to the other article now, which is phrased completely different. Trump's Project Freedom, that's what they're calling it, is a reckless provocation to war, and American sailors are the bait. A dangerous new escalation. President Donald Trump has just announced Project Freedom, a U.S. Navy mission to escort commercial tankers through the Strait of Hormuz. The official line is that this is a humanitarian gesture to keep global oil flowing. I see it for what it really is, a reckless provocation designed to force Iran's military into a response, giving Washington the excuse for a wider war, and our own sailors are being used as bait. Trump rejected Iran's 14-point peace proposal on May 3rd, calling it unacceptable, and then ordered the Navy to start guiding ships out of Hormuz. So, I think some context for this article is that the president only has war powers to do a strategic military operation in a foreign country for 60 days without getting congressional approval. But if Iran attacks one of our ships, then they could do a new strategic military operation, start the 60-day clock over, and then have 60 more days to continue to wage war. Otherwise, they would have 30 days as a wind down period, not to continue going after Iran, but to pull out and defend only defensive attacks. But the main objective would be to pull out of the region and you know, not continue the operation. So what makes more sense? We got the Strait of Hormuz closed for no reason. The U.S. and Israel making absolutely no sense, going to war without any stated goals of the war. They say they don't want regime change, but they're glad the leader died. They say that we have to get Iran to give up their nukes or else we need to nuke them. How does that make sense? The danger of a nuclear attack, the American people don't stand for that. So if there's any chance of a threat, then we need to nuke them, other human beings on Earth that live somewhere else. They don't phrase it like that because they want to disconnect your thought process. They say, "Hey, there's a bunch of I guess for lack of a better term, and excuse my profanity, but hey, there's a bunch of goat fuckers over there that look at them dumb, whatever. A lot of veterans came back from the Middle East and they call them hajis or whatever. These dehumanizing terms. They don't want you to think that the effect of a nuclear attack on Tehran, a city in the Middle East, is the same effect of a nuclear attack on a city in the U.S. So we have to stop them from getting nukes that they may or may not have. We're taking Israel's word for it, and they've lied to us before. So in the off chance that they accidentally do have these, we need to do the same thing that we don't want them to do to them first. That makes us the bad guys. Hate to say it, but that makes us the bad guys. So, I don't know. I mean, maybe they do have the nuke, but if they had the nuke and they haven't used it, and they've showed so much restraint, then where's the justification in that? Guess what? North Korea has a nuke. They're our enemy. We didn't bomb them. In fact, they test nukes all the time and break the nuclear agreement, the international nuclear treaty that they're signed on to. They break that all the time, and we don't ever do anything about it. So let's not be hypocrites, and let's not be, uh, uh, unevenly yoked, I guess, is a good term for it. So I'm going to pivot to this article. And this article, like I said, we're just trying to find out what's going on. So I looked up the news today to create this show, and my thing was what's going on. And I just found a bunch of random articles, and uh, so my next article here is the Supreme Court gives abortion pill mifepristone a 1 week reprieve from major change. So let's get this down to the bedrock here. The first thought in my head is why is the Supreme Court involved in laws having to do with pharmaceutical pills? There's no right in the Constitution. The Supreme Court judges the constitutionality of a law, and if anything, the law of the land is that you can't murder people. So a baby in the womb, I view that as murder. So if I was the Supreme Court, my ruling would be that this violates the Constitution to begin with. Like I said, I think for medical purposes and different reasons, there could be a debate on it, and that's when laws are made beneath the Supreme Court on the state level for everybody, and everybody gets the chance to vote on it in their own areas. There shouldn't be a national, that shouldn't be a federal power. That should be something that maybe a local community decides on what they want their laws to be. But, you go to a concentrated area of enough people, and they might want abortion pills, Then you go to a concentrated area of different people, and they might not want them. And and then you might live in a city that doesn't have it, and you want it, so go there and get it or whatever. But the Supreme Court stepped in on this, and the Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito on Monday put a 1 week hold on major changes how the abortion pill mifepristone can be prescribed. The ruling temporarily restores nationwide access to a drug used for most medical abortions in the U.S. So you could call on the phone in telehealth, the law that was in place, you could call on the phone with telehealth and order these pills and do your own abortion at home, which uh, I don't know. I don't even understand it. That'd be like you have lice in your hair, so you spray bug chemicals right in your own face or something. Doesn't that poison your body too? But I'm not a doctor. I don't know anything about it. But just the whole thing of taking a pill and letting poison that's enough to kill a baby inside of you go through your bloodstream so that it can get filtered and enter into the baby from your bloodstream. It passes through another filtering process which separates. There is a blood barrier between the mother and the baby, but the pill, obviously, in order for it to work, would have to pass through the mother's system, make it through the filter system between the two separate bodies, which I would like to emphasize, into the baby's body, and that's enough poison to kill the baby. So you could call someone over the phone, buy these things, and eat them without any supervision. That to me makes no sense. So the law makes sense, but then this judge gets to step in and put a 1 week hold on it. And later down the article, Louisiana was complaining because they passed massive laws in their community. They decided that they didn't want abortion, to be easily accessible. And now the Supreme Court justice overstepped them and is forcing it to be available. So, I mean, I guess everyone could do what they want, but like I said, what's going on? This lady in this picture wearing a giant pill costume and dancing around in front of abortion signs. Abortion AF, it says. What what are you even advocating for? Uh, Abortion AF. Everyone knows what AF means. So you're just like love aborting babies. There's not like, stand up for the women who have uh whatever, some syndrome that they, if they got pregnant, they would die. There's not signs saying we support the thin uterus community or something. I don't know what diseases associate with that, but they're not advocating for anything. They're just literally dancing around in abortion pills and holding signs about how much they love it. And like I said, this is a moral issue, and to just have no stated reason to even stand for your morals. I have a reason for my morals. It's because that's a human being, and I believe in God, and I think God created us, and I'd like to see everyone have an equal opportunity to exist and become something. If you're going to let illegal immigrants into the country, and you're going to say, well, what if this guy cures cancer? Then you have to apply the same logic to an unborn child and say, well, I know that there's borders and barriers and border patrol agents and ICE and all those things, but can't we just waive all those things and let this guy come in? Because what if he is the next greatest, whatever, doctor or scientist or whatever? So you have that logic, And then the same people who have that logic, the Democrat Party, they support open borders, also hold the belief that children don't have or shouldn't be given the opportunity to have potentially the same outcome. It just irritates me, and I'm being obviously super without filter here, but I don't really care because that just irritates me. Everyone's got the right to think what they want, but I I would be disgusted if people took the stance of that picture, the wearing an abortion T-shirts, dressing up like a big Plan B pill or whatever, and dancing around. And then if you came to me and legitimately tried to offer that perspective and say, listen, here's the thing. I just love abortions and I want more of them. And I don't think people should be responsible for the consequences of their own actions. You know, and hey, while we're at it, oh, how about up to a year after, if you have buyer's remorse, you can have a post birth abortion. Why don't we just go that far? Because if you're gonna throw all morality out the window and stand up for this defenseless position, then just go all the way. Just go all the way, and don't spare me your lack of humanity and your lack of empathy and your lack of uh, thought process. Don't spare me. Just lay it on me. Tell me what you want, because that's the only next logical conclusion. Me, I don't believe in murder. I don't believe that it's right. I believe in God. I believe in morality. And that's an unmovable position. Your position is based on nothing, and it's based on, well, it's progress. Well, if I call everyone having to be a Christian mandated by the government, and if you don't go to church, they'll come rip you out of your house and drag you down there and handcuff you to the pew for the rest of the day. If I call that progress, does that mean that we just get to do it now? No, because it's wrong. So don't call that progress and say, well, it's progress, so it's right. It's an indefensible position. And that's where I'll leave that. Please leave a comment. Let me know what you think, because I am just going off right now about it. I might watch this later and say, "Ooh, I shouldn't have went that far," or "Oh, I shouldn't have," or "I should have said this. I should have said this Bible verse because Jesus wants me to be more caring and sympathetic," or I don't know what I'll think later. But uh, you're experiencing the same, the an organic wave of emotions, because, like I said, I just looked up articles. They're kind of random here, and you're getting my real take on what I think of what's going on. So, speaking of what's going on, the California wildfires now, the state of California is going after State Farm. If everyone remembers, a whole bunch of people lost their homeowners insurance just months before the California wildfires. And then, apparently, according to this article, the state is seeking millions of dollars in penalties that you, as a citizen, will probably never get from State Farm, as an investigation found that the insurance company was slow to investigate and that they underpaid claims. So taking advantage of people in their time of need after they were loyal customers and paid homeowners insurance for probably an extended amount of time with never using it. Now they get screwed over and underpaid by these companies. And then California will probably get the money for the penalties, and Gavin Newsom will spread it out amongst his buddies over there, and you'll get double screwed over. So, good news on that aspect. uh, and just for the sake of time, I have two quick articles and then I'll wrap it up. But, there we go. New Mexico seeks child safety restrictions on Meta app and algorithms in trial's second phase. So, this is a private company, Facebook, owned by Mark Zuckerberg, or he's the CEO or whatever, because it's publicly traded company. But, okay, so Mark Zuckerberg and Meta apparently were found to be purposefully making their product, which is their social media company, addictive by, you know, uh, the shorts, how they, the length of time that they are, and the quickness to attention, and what you Facebook themselves, I think they call them reels or something, not shorts, but I don't know what they call them. But the way that they are 30 seconds long, and Facebook promotes ones that might have like a loud noise in the beginning or something exciting happen in the beginning, then you get invested. And some Facebook videos are like a trick. They're like, "Oh, watch what we're gonna do to this guy," and they keep dancing around doing it, and then you watch for like 10 minutes, and they end up never even doing the thing that the whole video was based on, and you're like sitting on the edge of your seat waiting to laugh because they're about to prank this guy, and it never happens. I don't know. So whatever. Facebook's doing this. Now a court found them liable, social media's apps and algorithms. They say that they want to safeguard children, and they're doing trials. They're in the second phase of trials of how to make it safer for kids. They're testing somehow or something along those lines. So, anyway, this guy owns a company. If you want to give your kids a phone and let them use the product of that company, and you're not going to supervise them, and you're going to let them have too much screen time and become addicted to social media, that's on the parents. That's not the government's job to step in. I'm not a fan of Mark Zuckerberg. I don't agree with him. I think that he's a bandwagoner as it pertains to his new love for Trump that he didn't seem to have for the last 9 years. I think he's a bandwagoner. I don't like Facebook. They allow predators to target children. They have an algorithm that if you posted a video of Alex Jones, it has voice recognition technology that it will pull down the video almost instantaneously. And his big crime is that he questioned an event at one point in history before. Okay, that's his massive crime. So he'll get pulled down instantly. But child predators can target children on Facebook, and they don't do anything about it. So I'm no fan of Mark Zuckerberg, but if I wanted to make, cigarettes that are addictive for someone, I'm allowed to do that. I'm allowed to own that company. So I think that this whole thing with Facebook, it's not a win for the people, or hey, look what Trump did. He's going after Facebook. This is just a violation of someone's freedom to do what they want with their property. He owns the company. Whether I like what he's doing or not, he has the right to do it to a certain extent. Obviously, not the child predator thing that I talked about a minute ago. But as far as making the app addictive, I don't know. That's on you. If I if I go and buy a pack of cigarettes and I smoke 3 of them a day, that's kind of moderation. It's probably not that bad for you. You could probably get away with it for a length of time and see very little consequence. And that's not like medical advice, but if I went to the store and bought 5 packs of cigarettes and smoked them all today, and then continued to do that day after day, then I'm going to have some serious problems. So, do I get to sue the gas station for selling me 5 packs of cigarettes because I'm irresponsible? Or is that my fault for being an idiot? And the answer is obviously the latter of the two. I would be the idiot, and I would have to pay the price for that by probably having bad health. So, if you want your kids to have bad health, continue to let them have a phone and a screen in front of them and Blippy. I don't like that guy. Continue to let them watch Blippy and see what they grow up to be. So, we'll skip off of that topic on to Spirit Airlines. Spirit Airlines has refunded most customers after a shutdown. So Spirit Airlines had to shut down the other day, and they're reimbursing customers with flight tickets after the budget carriers ceased operations. The airline is still processing a small percentage of customer refunds. So basically, Spirit Airlines shut down, and it says here they started an orderly wind down of operations after efforts to obtain $500 million in federal bailout, and that failed. So they shut down. They had to refund a bunch of tickets. So Spirit Airlines will no longer be an operating airline company, and that just shows that America's big companies and big institutions, they're narrowing down to a few main companies of everything. And we're becoming almost like a corporatocracy. The corporations can just go and pay off our politicians to pass whatever laws they want anyway. And there's only 5 or 7 companies that probably own like literally everything. There are umbrella companies that have sub companies underneath them to hide the responsibility of who actually owns everything and whatever. But essentially, we live in a corporatocracy, and Spirit Airlines getting shut down is capitalism. I will give them that. In a free market capitalist society, there shouldn't be a federal bailout. And if Spirit Airlines runs out of money, then they do shut down. So, mixed feelings here. You got major companies getting shut down in our country. It just creates a little feeling of instability. You think, like, what if, I don't know, we've seen a lot of companies shut down. CVS and a lot of those stores. Well, Sears was a long time ago, but more and more you're seeing these big companies. Like, you'd go to the mall, and the biggest store in the mall has the gates pulled down and a sign on there, and they're closed, and the old sign that was up there for, I don't know, that's down now, and things are changing. So it creates this element of instability, but at the same time, it creates a vacuum for something new to come along. And we, as humans, for As long as our history has been, we've evolved through the situations, and I'm sure that we can create a new company. So that article I shared with you just to kind of bring up essentially what I view as, the changing times, the old establishments, uh, maybe coming down, or maybe some of the old establishments maybe consolidating wealth and power. But essentially, to put it into perspective. So the theme of the show today was what's going on, and that is what's going on. We got all these different things going on, and now if you look at it and you say, all right, we got this abortion problem, we got this problem, we got this problem. How do we navigate it? And you look at all this news and you say, all right, what do we have to do? The first thing I'd do is be like, hold on a minute. Don't we owe a ton of money? Let's figure that out. Don't we have this war going on for no reason? Can we fix that? Let's fix that. Okay. Oh wow, we're getting more money coming in. All right. Well, we need to do something with this money, because now we're not paying for a war. We got oil coming back through. The economy's back up and running. Uh, we need to do something with this money. Well, let's invest it here, 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 and here. Now look, my approval rating went up. I'm doing great as the president. The people love what I'm doing. This is for the people. Oh my God. If I pass laws that help the people that vote for me, they'll like me? Why didn't we think of that before? Is that what they're going to do? No. They're going to continue to advance us towards this road to nowhere that everyone can see, and everyone wonders, why the heck is our society gone from what it was in the 70s, where you could get out of high school, get a job at a factory, and raise a family of 3 kids, and your wife got to stay home, she didn't have to work, and you could raise a family and own a house. Why do we go from that to now you rent everything, you lease your car, nobody has kids? I mean, isn't that an obvious, not progression? That's a regression. That's an obvious regression, and the only way to turn that around is to do the opposite of the things we've done since the time when it was good. If you had a tracking device in your hand, let's say you're looking for something, and you're walking, and the 2 dots are getting further apart, then you need to go back towards the way that the opposite way of the way you're going to get to what you want to get to. So, in order for us to get to where we want to go, where we're a wealthy society of people that can, live the American dream, then we have to go back and stop doing all the things we've done since the time when things were good. Doesn't that make sense? So, that is my stance on everything. That's what I think is going on. And that is probably one of the more extreme versions of what I think is going on. Because there's a lot going on, with my thought process. And if you watch previous shows or other times, you'll see the whole picture of my thought process. And so I encourage everyone to like and share this video, subscribe to this video. That way you get the notifications for when my next show does come up. And I offer all kinds of perspectives. I like to see things I like to walk a mile in everyone else's shoes and legitimately judge it. If I'm gonna walk a mile in your shoes, but I don't pay attention, then I'm not living the experience. To use the analogy, if your toe hurts and I walk a mile in your shoes, and I never recognize after I walked that, hey, your shoes made my toe hurt. And then a week later, I put my shoes back on, my toe feels better, and I forget about the whole thing. And then I say, you need to wear those shoes and just do it. I did it. You need to do it. I literally walked a mile in your shoes. You're complaining about your toe. Whatever. Okay. So you don't have any empathy and any compassion. I like to walk a mile in people's shoes, and then after I realize what's going on, then I say, hey buddy, you need some insoles. Them shoes that I borrowed, them suck. Those suck really bad, and I feel for you now. Now that I know what you're going through, I feel for you. You want me to get you some insoles? Here's $30, dude. Just go get yourself something. You know what I mean? That is where I'm trying to come from, and I would appreciate everybody's perspective. So if you could leave a comment down below, let me know what you think. I would appreciate it, and I also appreciate you. Thank you for watching. Let me pop our little banner up here so I could close out in proper fashion. There it is. Christ is King. Jesus is Lord. Please pray for this country. Please pray for the conflict. Pray for both Israel and Iran and peace on earth and a solution to this problem and a solution to the problem of the lack of fertilizer. Pray for abundance worldwide for everybody so that everybody can have abundance. A rising tide raises all ships, and we, you know, don't control the ocean, but we can control the tide of human freedom, human liberty, allowing people to live a full experience as a human being, whether they're not born yet, born somewhere else. We pray for that, and the whole world needs prayers and a lot of these issues. So please pray for that. Another thing is nobody does anything for no reason. So I may disagree with you, you may disagree with me, but please take a principled stance. If you stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything. So stand for something, whether I agree with you or believe what you believe. Stand for something, or this country is going to fall, and it has fallen for a lot of things. We haven't consented to our own issues. We didn't come out and say, yes, we agree that you can make us all poor. But we consented by knowing that these issues were going on and allowing them to continue. So you are just as guilty as I am guilty, as the government is guilty for allowing this to happen. And we have to take a stand against that. So please, whatever you believe in, go out and advocate for yourself, because nobody else is going to do it. And you control your own destiny. You control your own fate. And you are the one who influences whether that tide rises and raises all the ships. So we are the tide. Raise the tide, raise the ships, raise everybody up. Let's have prosperity and abundance for everybody. And that's all I got for you today. So thank you for watching. Please like and share, subscribe to this video, and we hope to catch you on the next one. Thank you again.